The message arrived during a routine council session, and nobody expected it to change everything. Ambassador Reth sat in his chamber reviewing trade agreements when his communication device blinked with an alert he had not seen in 300 years. The authentication code was ancient, from a time when the galaxy was younger and more dangerous. His 4 hands trembled as he opened the transmission. "This cannot be real," he whispered to himself. But it was real. The humans were coming back. Reth was old now, one of the few Kuri who still remembered Earth and its strange, determined people. Most of his species had long forgotten about the humans. The younger generations barely knew the story. But Reth remembered everything. 3 centuries ago, his people had saved Earth from certain destruction. A massive asteroid, large enough to crack the planet in half, was racing toward the human homeworld. Earth's primitive technology could not stop it. The humans sent desperate signals into space, begging for help, knowing they would likely die before anyone answered. The Kuri responded. They were the closest species with the technology to help. Their colony ship, the Endless Dawn, diverted from its mission. 50,000 Kuri aboard that ship used their gravity well generators to pull the asteroid away from Earth. The effort tore their ship apart. All 50,000 died, but Earth survived. The humans wept. They offered everything they had in payment. But the Kuri asked for something different. They had watched humanity for decades and saw something that frightened them. Humans were brilliant and innovative, but also violent and unpredictable. Wars covered their planet. They fought each other with terrible weapons. The Kuri worried what would happen when such a species reached the stars, so they asked for time. Humanity would quarantine itself to its own solar system for 300 years. No contact, no expansion. Time to grow, to mature, to learn peace. The humans agreed, though it clearly hurt them to accept such terms. Most species in the galaxy assumed humans would break the agreement within decades. But they did not. 300 years passed and humanity remained silent, locked away in their single star system. Eventually everyone forgot about them. New powers rose. The galaxy moved on, until today. Reth brought the message to the Galactic Council immediately. The chamber fell silent as he played the transmission. Director Fenn, a gray-skinned Hillrock with 6 eyes, listened with obvious irritation. "This is irrelevant," Fenn said, waving one thin arm dismissively. "The humans are probably extinct by now. This is likely an automated signal." "You do not understand," Reth replied. "I met them. I spoke with their leaders after the Endless Dawn fell. They made a promise." "Promises mean nothing after 3 centuries, another council member said. "To humans, promises mean everything," Reth insisted. The debate continued for hours. Finally, they agreed to send a probe to the edge of human space just to confirm the message was real. Reth insisted on going himself. Something in his heart told him this was important. 3 days later, Reth's ship emerged at the border of Earth's solar system. What he saw made his blood run cold. A vessel waited there, sleek and dark, unlike anything in the Galactic Council's fleets. It was not large, perhaps carrying no more than 100 crew members. But something about its design spoke of purpose and barely contained power. The communication request came immediately. Reth accepted. A human woman appeared on his screen. She had dark skin, short hair, and eyes that seemed to look right through him. She wore a simple uniform with no decorations except a single patch showing Earth against a field of stars. "Ambassador Reth," she said, and her voice was steady and calm. "My name is Anne Brooks. I speak for humanity." "I did not expect you to honor the agreement," Reth admitted. Anne smiled slightly. "We gave our word. 300 years ago, your people saved every man, woman, and child on Earth. 50,000 Kuri gave their lives for us. We could never forget that. Every human child learns their names in school. We remember." Reth felt something tighten in his chest. "The galaxy has changed. My people have changed. We are not what we once were." "I know," Anne said quietly. "We have been watching from our system. We saw what happened to the Kuri. We saw the fading." "The fading." Reth closed his eyes. "The genetic plague that was slowly killing his entire species. Every year, fewer Kuri children were born. Every year, more died before reaching adulthood. Scientists predicted total extinction within 2 more generations. There is nothing anyone can do," Reth said. "We have accepted our fate." "No," Anne said, and there was steel in her voice now. "You saved us. Now we save you. The debt is owed, Ambassador Reth. The time has come. How may humanity serve the Kori people? Reth stared at her. You cannot be serious. You would risk yourselves for us? You owe us nothing. The isolation was payment enough. Anne shook her head. Humanity does not think that way. 50,000 of your people died for us. We will not let their sacrifice be forgotten. We will not let you die while we have breath in our bodies and strength in our hands. This is who we are. The Council will not allow it, Reth warned. They fear you. The old records mark humanity as dangerous. Then they are wise, Anne said simply, because we are dangerous. But not to our friends. Never to our friends. Will you take us to your homeworld, Ambassador? Will you let us try to help? Reth thought of his children, both lost to the fading before their 20th year. He thought of his grandchildren he would never meet, because his remaining daughter was too afraid to bear children who would only suffer and die. He thought of empty cities and silent schools and a dying people who had once saved Earth. Yes, he said, I will take you home. Anne nodded once. Then we begin. Send word to your matriarch. Tell her humanity has come to repay its debt. The transmission ended. Reth sat in his chair staring at the dark space where Anne's image had been. He did not know if humans could really help. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The galaxy had forgotten what humans were capable of when they cared about something. When they bonded with something. When they decided something was worth protecting. The galaxy was about to remember, and Reth suspected many would regret that reminder before this was over. News traveled fast in the Galactic Council, and fear traveled even faster. Within hours of Reth's transmission, every major species knew that humanity had emerged from isolation. Emergency sessions were called. Ancient files were pulled from archives, and slowly, the younger species began to understand why the old ones looked so worried. Director Fenn stood before the assembled council, projecting data onto the central display. His 6 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of his agitation. I have reviewed the human files, he announced. What I found is deeply concerning. The display showed Earth rotating slowly. Red warnings covered the image. Humanity comes from a Class 12 death world, Fenn continued. For context, most species evolve on Class 3 or 4 worlds. Anything above Class 8 is considered uninhabitable. Murmurs spread through the chamber. A Class 12 world meant Earth was barely survivable even for its native species. The gravity is crushing, Fenn read from the file. The atmosphere is corrosive. The weather patterns are violent and unpredictable. The native predators are massive and numerous. Diseases evolve rapidly, and the intelligent species humans spent most of their history fighting each other in increasingly destructive wars. A council member from the Dreth Collective spoke up. Surely they have evolved past such violence. Reth, sitting in his designated area, laughed bitterly. You do not understand. Humans did not succeed despite their world. They succeeded because of it. Every challenge made them stronger. Every threat made them smarter. Every loss made them more determined. Fenn nodded reluctantly. The old records support this. When humans first achieved space travel, they solved problems that had stumped our best scientists. When the Trellin plague struck the border colonies, human medical students found a cure in 3 weeks. Our experts had worked on it for decades. What are you suggesting? Another council member asked. I am suggesting we do not want humanity involved in galactic affairs, Fenn said firmly. They are too effective, too willing to do whatever it takes. During the border wars, a single human ship disabled an entire battle fleet using tactics we classified as impossible. They rammed the command ship at faster than light speed, Reth said quietly. The crew knew they would die. They did it anyway because it would save others. That is what humans do. The chamber fell silent. Finally, someone asked the obvious question. What do they want now? They want to help the Kuri, Reth answered. They learned about the fading. This caused an uproar. Several species began speaking at once. Fenn raised his arms for silence. The Kuri situation is tragic but beyond help, Fenn declared. Hundreds of medical teams have studied the fading. It cannot be cured. The genetic damage is too extensive. Tell that to humanity, Reth said. They do not believe in impossible. Then they are fools, Fenn snapped. Perhaps, Reth agreed. But they are fools who keep their promises. And 300 years ago my people saved their world. 50,000 Kuri died to push that asteroid away from Earth. Now humanity thinks it is their turn. A new voice entered the discussion. It came from the communication system, unexpected and uninvited. Anne Brooks appeared on every screen in the council chamber. "Forgive the interruption," she said, not sounding apologetic at all, "but we thought you should know our intentions." "This is a private council session," Fenn protested. "Your security is inadequate," Anne replied simply. "We broke through it in approximately 7 minutes. But that is not important right now. What matters is this. We are going to the Kuri homeworld. We are going to study the fading. And we are going to fix it. You cannot possibly," Fenn began. "We landed 12 people on our moon using computers less powerful than your personal data devices," Anne interrupted. "We split the atom before we had proper safety equipment. We sent robots to other planets before we had reliable spacesuits. Humans have been doing impossible things since we learned to make fire. This will be no different." Several council members began speaking at once, but Anne continued over them. "We are not asking for permission. We are not joining your council. We are informing you of our intentions as a courtesy. The Kuri saved us. We will save them. This is not negotiable." A Hill Rock security official leaned forward. "You bring one ship. We have thousands. You cannot defy the council." Anne smiled, and something in that smile made Reth's blood run cold. "We brought one diplomatic ship," she corrected. "Would you like to know what else is waiting at the edge of your sensor range?" The display changed without anyone touching the controls. It showed deep space beyond council territory, and there, barely visible, were ships. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. They were dark and silent, but their size was obvious even from this distance. 300 years is a long time," Anne said softly. "We did not spend it sitting idle. We built, we advanced, we prepared, because we learned a hard lesson in our history. Hope for peace, but prepare for war. We hoped we would never need these ships. We hoped the galaxy would be kind, but we prepared anyway." "This is a threat," Fenn accused. "No," Anne said firmly. "This is a promise. We will help the Kuri. Anyone who tries to stop us will regret it. But understand this too, we seek no territory. We want no power. We only want to repay a debt. Help us or stay out of our way. Those are your options." The transmission ended. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some demanded military action. Others called for negotiation. A few suggested doing nothing and hoping the humans would fail. Reth stood slowly. His old bones ached, and his heart beat irregularly because of the fading already affecting him. But his voice was strong when he spoke. "You are all terrified," he observed. "Good, you should be. Because I have met humans and I know what they are capable of when they care about something. When they bond with something. When they decide something is worth protecting." "What are you saying?" Fenn demanded. "I am saying that 300 years ago we saved them, and whether you like it or not, they now consider us theirs. And humans protect what is theirs with a ferocity that no other species can match. They do not give up. They do not accept defeat. They will tear apart stars if that is what it takes." "That is insane," someone muttered. "Yes," Reth agreed. "That is what makes them so dangerous, and so valuable as friends. Now, if you will excuse me, I have a transmission to send to my matriarch. The humans are coming home with me, and she deserves to know." He left the chamber. Behind him, the council continued arguing. But Reth knew it did not matter what they decided. Humanity had made up its mind, and when humans made a decision, the universe itself seemed to bend to accommodate them. His only hope was that his people could be saved before humanity reminded the galaxy why Deathworlders should never be underestimated, or worse, why they should never be made into enemies. Khan had once been the jewel of its sector, a world of soaring cities and billions of voices singing in harmony. Now it was a graveyard waiting to be filled. Anne stood at the viewport of her ship as they approached the Kuri homeworld. The planet below was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents, but something felt wrong. The city lights were too sparse. The orbital traffic was almost non-existent. This was a civilization slowly going dark. "Population?" she asked quietly. Dr. Henry Okoye checked his data tablet. He was a tall man from Lagos with steady hands and kind eyes that had seen too much suffering. 193 million Kuri remaining, down from 14 billion at their peak. Anne closed her eyes briefly. 14 billion to less than 200 million. An entire species dying in slow motion. "How long do they have?" she asked. "At current rates?" 40 years until the last Kuri dies," Henry answered. "But it will get faster toward the end. Cascade failures always do." Commander Patricia Walsh stood nearby, her arms crossed over her chest. She was shorter than Anne, but carried herself like someone who had fought hard battles and won. The Council still insist we abandon this mission. They sent another message while you were reviewing the medical data. Ignore them, Anne said flatly. We did not come this far to turn back now. Their ship entered the atmosphere with barely a shudder. Human engineering had improved dramatically during the isolation. Everything was smoother now, more efficient. The galaxy would learn that soon enough. They landed at the designated coordinates, a platform near the planetary capital. The city spread out around them, elegant towers reaching toward the sky. But Anne could see the emptiness. Buildings with dark windows, streets with no traffic, gardens growing wild because there was nobody to tend them. A delegation waited for them at the landing platform. 5 Kuori, each with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors with their emotions. Currently, they were all showing variations of gray and blue, sadness and resignation. The central figure was clearly the eldest. She stood straight despite her obvious age, and her eyes held depths of sorrow that made Anne's chest ache. I am Matriarch Selah, she said in perfect English. Welcome to Khan, Ambassador Brooks, though I confess I do not understand why you have come. Anne stepped forward and did something that made her human crew stiffen in surprise. She dropped to one knee and bowed her head. 50,000 of your people died to save mine, Anne said clearly. We remember every name. We tell every child. We carved their names on a monument that covers 3 square kilometers. We have not forgotten, Matriarch Selah. We will never forget. The matriarch's colors shifted to something softer, touched with gold, surprise perhaps, or hope, though Anne suspected the Kuori had little of that left. Please stand, Selah said gently. You owe us nothing. The debt was paid by your 3 centuries of isolation. That was the agreement. Anne rose and looked the matriarch directly in her large, luminous eyes. With respect, matriarch, humans do not think that way. Your people saved us. Now we save you. It is simple. The fading cannot be cured, Selah said, and her voice carried the weight of years of grief. We have tried everything. Our best scientists, the Council's medical teams, researchers from a dozen species, all have failed. We have accepted what is coming. We have not accepted it, Anne replied. Dr. Okoye is the finest genetic specialist Earth has produced. His team solved the Cairo plague in 4 months. They rebuilt the European genome after the disaster. If anyone can help you, they can. Henry stepped forward, offering a respectful bow. Matriarch Selah, I will need complete access to your medical facilities, genetic databases, and current patients. I need to see everything. You will have it, Selah agreed, though I caution you not to hope too much. This has broken the hearts of many brilliant people. Then it is fortunate that humans are stubborn, Henry said with a slight smile. We do not break easily. The matriarch led them through the city. Anne tried not to stare at the empty buildings, the silent streets, the parks where no children played. This was what extinction looked like when it came slowly enough to see. They reached the central medical facility, a massive structure that could have held thousands of patients. Now it housed perhaps 100. The Kuori did not waste resources on lost causes. Henry and his team disappeared into the research wing immediately, already requesting data, samples, and detailed genetic maps. Anne stayed with the matriarch, walking through gardens that were barely maintained. Why do you really care? Selah asked after a long silence. Your people are safe. Your world thrives. We are strangers to you now. My grandmother told me a story, Anne said softly. When the endless dawn fell, when your people died to save us, Earth watched. Every human being who could see a screen watched your ship tear itself apart to push that asteroid away. My grandmother said the entire planet wept. Strangers embraced in the streets. Enemies put down their weapons, because 50,000 people we had never met just died to give us a future. She turned to face the matriarch fully. That changed us. It showed us what we could be, what we should be. We spent 300 years becoming worthy of that sacrifice. We ended our wars. We healed our planet. We built a society based on the principle that life is precious. All life and worth fighting for. You gave us that, matriarch. You and your 50,000 martyrs. Selah's colors shifted again, cycling through emotions too complex to name. We do not have the resources to pay you, she said quietly. We do not want payment, Anne replied. We want you to live. That is all. 3 days passed. Henry and his team barely slept. diving deep into Kuri genetics with the intensity that only humans could sustain. Anne watched them work, saw them argue and theorize and test. She saw them get frustrated and push through anyway. On the fourth day, Henry came to her with an expression she could not read. "I found something," he said. "Anne, you need to see this." They gathered in a secure room. Just Anne, Henry, Patricia, and matriarch Sela. Henry projected his findings onto a display that showed DNA sequences and complex genetic structures. "The fading is not natural," he said without preamble. "It is artificial. Someone designed this." The room went completely silent. Sela's colors drained to pure white, shock rendering her speechless. "Explain," Anne said, her voice dangerous and low. "The genetic damage follows a pattern," Henry continued. "It is too precise to be random mutation. Someone introduced a biological agent into the Kuri population approximately 287 years ago. It was designed to integrate into their DNA and cause slow, cascading failures. But here's the important part. It was designed to look natural, to hide. Whoever did this wanted the Kuri to die thinking it was just bad luck." Patricia swore in 3 languages. Anne felt cold rage settling into her bones. "Can you trace who did this?" she asked. "I can," Henry confirmed. "The biological markers are specific. They match the genetic engineering techniques of only one species." He changed the display. A new image appeared showing a species Anne did not recognize. Tall, thin beings with crystalline skin and multiple sensory organs. "The Vosh Concordate," Henry said. "They did this. They murdered your people slowly, Matriarch Sela, and they made sure it would take so long that nobody would discover the truth until it was too late." Sela sank into a chair, her 4 arms trembling. "Why, what did we ever do to them?" "That does not matter," Anne said, and her voice carried a promise that made even Patricia take a step back. "What matters is this: they hurt our friends. They tried to exterminate an entire species, and they thought they would get away with it." She looked at Henry. "Can you cure it?" "Yes," he said without hesitation. "Now that I know what I am looking for, yes. It will take time, but I can create a treatment." "Good," Anne said. "Do it. Patricia, send word to Fleet Command. We have new orders." Patricia smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "What orders would those be, Ambassador?" Anne turned back to the display showing the Vosh Concordate. Her eyes were hard as steel, and her voice was calm in the way that humans got when they were truly, deeply angry. "We are going to visit the Vosh. We are going to have a conversation about what they did, and then we are going to teach the galaxy a lesson it should have learned 300 years ago." "What lesson is that?" Sela asked in a whisper. Anne looked at her, and the matriarch saw something in those human eyes that was both terrifying and strangely comforting. "Do not ever hurt our friends." The human fleet materialized at the edge of Vosh space like ghosts becoming solid, and the galaxy held its breath. Admiral Derek Stone stood in the command center of his flagship, the Endless Dawn, named in honor of the Kuri ship that had saved Earth so long ago. He was a weathered man in his 50s with gray hair and scars that spoke of hard training in Earth's brutal environment. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency. "Status report," he ordered. 47 ships accounted for," his tactical officer replied. "All systems green. We are holding position exactly 1 light minute from the Vosh border." "Good," Derek said. "Open a channel. Broadcast on all frequencies. I want every Vosh with a receiver to hear this." The communications officer nodded. "Channel open, Admiral." Derek took a breath and then spoke, his voice carrying across the void of space. "This is Admiral Derek Stone of the Earth Defense Fleet, speaking to the Vosh Concordate. 287 years ago, you introduced a biological weapon into the Kuri population. You murdered billions slowly, carefully, thinking nobody would ever discover your crime. You were wrong." He paused, letting that sink in. Across Vosh space, billions of crystalline beings were receiving this message. He wanted them all to hear what came next. "The Kuri are our friends. They saved humanity when we could not save ourselves, and you tried to exterminate them. So here is what will happen now. You will surrender every individual involved in creating and deploying that biological weapon. You will provide full documentation of your crime. You will do this within 12 hours. If you refuse, we will come and take what we want, and you will not enjoy the process." The transmission ended. Derek turned to his officers. "Now we wait." On the Vosh homeworld, the Leadership Council gathered in emergency session. They were panicking. which was unusual for a species known for their cold logic and careful planning. Supreme Coordinator Vesh stood at the head of the council chamber, his crystalline body reflecting the harsh lights. "How many human ships?" 47, his military advisor reported. "Small by our standards. We have 600 warships that can be mobilized within hours." "Then why are you all acting like this is a crisis?" Vesh demanded. An older council member, one who had access to the ancient records, spoke up. "Because they are humans. Because they come from a death world. Because everything in our intelligence files says we do not want to fight them." "That is superstition," Vesh snapped. "They are one species with fewer ships. We outnumber them 13 to 1. The Trellan Armada thought the same thing during the border wars," the old council member said quietly. "They had superior numbers too. The humans destroyed them in 6 hours." "That was one battle," Vesh argued. "An anomaly." "Then allow me to share what our intelligence gathered during their isolation period," the elder said, calling up data on the central display. "Human warships are built differently than ours. They use redundant systems, compartmentalized designs and armor that would slow down our ships unacceptably. But humans do not care about speed. They care about surviving long enough to hurt you." Images appeared on the screen showing human vessels bristling with weapons. "Their weapons are kinetic as well as energy-based," the elder continued. "They will shoot missiles and bullets and metal rods accelerated to incredible speeds. They use radiation weapons that we banned centuries ago as barbaric. They use tactics that no civilized species would consider." "Such as?" Vesh asked, though he was starting to feel uncertain. "Ramming," the elder said simply. "They will crash their ships into ours if it achieves their objective. Their pilots can withstand gravitational forces that would kill us. They wear pressure suits that let them survive in conditions that would destroy our bodies. And most importantly, they do not give up. Ever." The council chamber fell silent. Finally, someone asked, "What do we do?" "We could fight," the military advisor said hesitantly. "We might win. At what cost?" the elder demanded. "We targeted the Kuri because they were weak and dying. Humanity is neither weak nor dying. They are angry. And angry humans are the most dangerous thing in the galaxy." Vesh considered his options. His species had committed the perfect crime, or so they thought. The Kuri genocide was meant to eliminate a potential rival while looking like natural causes. Nobody was supposed to ever know, but now the Deathworlders knew, and they wanted justice and a response, Vesh finally decided. "Tell them we know nothing about any biological weapon. Tell them their accusations are baseless. Tell them to leave our space immediately or face military action." The elder made a sound of dismay, but the message was sent. 12 hours passed. The human fleet did not move. They simply waited at the border, dark and silent. Then, precisely when the deadline expired, they attacked. The Vosh had mobilized their fleet, 600 warships arranged in a defensive formation around their homeworld. They were ready. They had superior numbers and fighting positions. They were certain they could repel the humans. They were catastrophically wrong. The human ships came in fast, faster than the Vosh expected. They did not slow down or maneuver elegantly. They just charged straight at the defensive line like predators that had spotted prey. The Vosh opened fire with their energy weapons, sophisticated beams designed to disable ships without destroying them. Civilized warfare meant to minimize casualties. The beams struck human shields and armor and did almost nothing. The human ships just kept coming. Then the humans returned fire, and the Vosh learned what uncivilized warfare looked like. Missiles flew in swarms, hundreds of them, overwhelming the Vosh point defense systems. Kinetic rounds, simple metal slugs accelerated to tremendous speeds, punched through Vosh shields like they were not even there. And then came the radiation weapons, flooding the void with lethal energy that the Vosh had no protection against. Within the first hour, the Vosh lost 80 ships. "The humans lost too. Pull back," Vesh ordered desperately. "Regroup at the secondary line." But the humans did not give them time to regroup. They pressed the attack relentlessly, pursuing fleeing Vosh ships and destroying them with brutal efficiency. Human pilots pulled maneuvers that should have killed them, their ships spinning and diving in ways that exploited every weakness in the Vosh formations. A Vosh commander tried to ram a human ship, thinking to match their tactics. The human vessel simply fired thrusters at the last second, dodged and shot the Vosh ship's engines out. It drifted helplessly while the humans moved on to other targets. 6 hours into the battle, the Vosh fleet was broken. Ships fled in all directions. Some tried to surrender, but the humans seemed not to hear them. They just kept shooting, kept advancing, kept destroying. Derek watched from his command center as the Vosh defenses crumbled. "Cease fire on ships broadcasting surrender," he ordered. "But continue disabling their military installations." "Sir, the Council is requesting immediate negotiations," his communications officer reported. "Tell them they had their chance," Derek replied coldly. "Now they get to watch what happens when you murder our friends." The human fleet descended on the Vosh homeworld, but they did not attack the cities or civilians. Instead, with surgical precision, they destroyed every military base, every weapons factory, every shipyard. They used orbital strikes and precise missile attacks, turning the Vosh military infrastructure into rubble. The Vosh could only watch in horror as 3 centuries of military buildup was dismantled in less than a day. Finally, when every warship was disabled or destroyed, when every military installation was smoking ruins, Derek opened a new channel. "The killing is over," he announced, "but the reckoning has just begun. You will surrender every individual involved in the Kuri genocide. You will hand over all research, all documentation, all evidence. You will do this within 6 hours. If you refuse, we will start dismantling your civilian infrastructure, your power plants, your water treatment facilities, your communication networks. We will not kill your people, but we will send you back to the Stone Age. The choice is yours." This time the Vosh did not refuse. They could not afford to. Coordinators Vesh himself led the delegation that came to the human flagship, carrying data crystals with all the information the humans demanded. His crystalline body was dim with shame and fear. Derek met him in the docking bay, surrounded by human marines in powered armor. They were shorter than the Vosh, but somehow seemed larger, more dangerous. "Why?" Vesh asked quietly. "Why do you care so much about the Kuri? They are not even your species." Derek looked at him with cold contempt. "Because they saved us when we needed saving. Because they showed us what we could be. Because when you care about someone, really care, you protect them. You clearly do not understand that concept." "We were protecting ourselves," Vesh protested. "The Kuri were becoming too powerful. So you tried to kill them all," Derek said flatly. "You know what we call that on Earth? We call it genocide. And we do not tolerate genocide, not ever, not for any reason." He took the data crystals from Vesh. "You are lucky we are not the monsters you thought we were. We could have glassed your planet. We could have done to you what you did to the Kuri. But we are better than that. We do not kill innocent people." Derek leaned closer, his voice dropping to something almost conversational, but infinitely more threatening. "But understand this, Coordinator. If you ever threaten the Kuri again, we will come back. And next time we will not be so merciful. Now get off my ship." Vesh fled and Derek turned to his officers. "Send word to Ambassador Brooks. We have what we need. Time to go home." The Galactic Council met in the aftermath, and for the first time in 3 centuries, they understood what real fear felt like. Director Fenn stood before the assembled representatives, his 6 eyes darting nervously between the various species gathered. On the central display, footage played of the Battle of Vosh Prime. 600 warships reduced to scrap in less than a day. Military installations turned to rubble, and entire civilization's defenses swept aside like dust. "This cannot stand," declared Representative Corvin of the Dreth Collective. "Humanity has committed an act of war against a council member species. They must be sanctioned, their fleet must be dismantled, they must be what?" Reth interrupted, his voice sharp. "Fought, destroyed? Please, Representative Corvin, tell us how you plan to accomplish what 600 Vosh warships could not." Corvin fell silent. Nobody had an answer to that. Another representative spoke up, a cautious being from the Helix Federation. "They used radiation weapons. Those were banned under the Civilized Warfare Accords." "Humanity never signed those accords," Reth pointed out. "They were in isolation when those treaties were written. You cannot hold them to agreements they never made." "That is a technicality," Fenn snapped. "No," Reth said firmly. "That is reality. Humanity operates under their own code, their own ethics, and frankly, after reviewing the evidence they provided about the Vosh genocide, I believe their actions were justified." This caused an uproar. Multiple representatives began shouting at once. Fenn raised his arms for silence. The Vosh situation was an internal matter, Fenn argued. The Kuri decline was tragic, but not the concern of outsiders. The Vosh deliberately exterminated billions of innocent beings, Reth countered. They used a biological weapon designed to hide their crime. And you call this an internal matter? You call genocide something we should ignore? The humans had no authority to act, someone else insisted. The humans had every right to act, Reth shot back. They were protecting their allies. Or do you not understand what that word means anymore? A new voice entered the discussion. The display changed to show Ann Brooks, once again hijacking their secured communication system as easily as someone might open a door. "Good morning, council members," she said pleasantly. "I thought you might like to know what humanity plans to do next." "Get out of our systems," Fen demanded. "Your security is still terrible," Ann replied. "You should really invest in better encryption." "But that is beside the point. I am here to inform you that Dr. Okoye has successfully developed a treatment for the fading. Within 6 months, every Kuri will be cured. Their population will stabilize and begin growing again. The genocide attempt has failed." For a moment there was stunned silence. Then the chamber erupted in questions. Anne waited patiently for them to quiet down. "The treatment is based on human genetic engineering techniques. It is safe, effective, and permanent. We will provide it freely to the Kuri, asking nothing in return. The debt is repaid, just like that?" someone asked suspiciously. "You save them and ask for nothing?" "We save them because they saved us," Anne said simply. "That is how friendship works. At least that is how human friendship works. Perhaps you do things differently." Fen leaned forward. "What about the Vosh? You crippled their military. You humiliated them before the entire galaxy. What do you expect us to do about that?" Anne's expression hardened. "The Vosh committed genocide. They murdered billions. We provided you with complete evidence of their crimes. What you do with that information is your business. But humanity wants you to understand something very clearly." She paused, making sure every representative was paying attention. "We are not your enemies. We do not want to conquer you or rule you. We simply want to live in a galaxy where friends protect friends, where the strong defend the weak, and where genocidal monsters face consequences for their actions. If you can provide that, we will be happy to cooperate with you. If you cannot, we will do what needs to be done ourselves." "That sounds very much like a threat," Corvin observed. "It is a promise," Anne corrected. "The galaxy has forgotten what it means to stand up for something, what it means to put your life on the line for someone else, what it means to keep your word even when it is difficult. Humanity remembers. We learned it from the Kuri 300 years ago when they sacrificed 50,000 lives to save us." She leaned closer to the camera. "You are also focused on laws and territories and political concerns. You have forgotten about justice, about honor, about doing what is right simply because it is right. The Vosh tried to exterminate an entire species because they saw them as rivals, and you want to sanction us for stopping them? Nobody had a response to that." The truth was uncomfortable but undeniable. Anne straightened. "Humanity is returning to galactic society. We will be good neighbors if you let us, but we will not be pushed around. We will not ignore evil just because it is politically convenient. And we will always protect our friends. Remember that." The transmission ended. The council chamber remained silent for a long moment. Finally, Reth spoke. "I propose we officially recognize humanity as an independent power, not as council members, but as equals. Let them go their own way, follow their own code, and hope we never give them reason to treat us as enemies. They are dangerous," Fen said quietly. "Yes," Reth agreed. "They are also honorable, loyal, and willing to stand against injustice when everyone else looks away. The galaxy needs more of that, not less." The vote was called. By a narrow margin, the council agreed. Humanity would be recognized as an independent power, free to act within their own territory and defend their allies as they saw fit. It was not friendship, not yet, but it was acknowledgement. On Kuon, Matriarch Sela stood in the medical center watching Dr. Okoye administer the first treatments. Kuri patients who had been dying were already showing improvement. The genetic damage was being repaired. Life was returning. She found Anne standing in one of the gardens looking up at the stars. "Your doctor tells me that within a generation, our population will reach 1 billion again," Sela said softly. "He tells me that my people will survive, will thrive, will reclaim what was stolen from us." "Good," Anne said simply. "That is all we wanted." "Why?" Sela asked. "Why did you risk so much? You could have stayed hidden in your solar system." You could have ignored us. You could have let us die and the galaxy would never have blamed you. Anne turned to face her. When I was a child, my grandmother took me to the monument. The one with 50,000 names. She told me that those people died so I could live. So my children could live. So humanity could have a future. She paused, emotion flickering across her face. I stood there reading name after name and I made a promise. I promised that their sacrifice would not be forgotten. That humanity would be worthy of what they gave us, and that if the Kuri ever needed us, we would come running. You kept your promise, Sela observed. Humans always keep their promises. Anne replied. At least we try to. It is one of the things that makes us who we are. Sela's colors shifted to warm golds and soft blues, gratitude and affection. You have given us our future back. How can we ever repay you? You already did, Anne said with a slight smile. 300 years ago. Now we are even. But they both knew that was not quite true. Friendship was not about keeping score or balancing debts. It was about standing together, protecting each other and building something better than what came before. Across the galaxy, species watched and whispered. Humanity had returned, and they had returned with a vengeance. They had crushed a major military power in hours. They had defied the Galactic Council. They had saved a dying species just because they felt it was the right thing to do. Some species feared them. Some admired them. Some began to wonder if perhaps humanity might help them too, if they were in trouble. And on Earth, people celebrated. Their ambassadors had fulfilled the promise made 3 centuries ago. The debt was repaid. But more than that, humanity had announced to the galaxy that they were back. They were strong and they would not tolerate injustice. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human influence had just begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. 5 years passed and the galaxy learned to live with humanity's presence. The change was gradual but undeniable. On-con cities that had been dark for decades blazed with light again. Children played in parks that had been silent graveyards. The population passed 1 billion and kept climbing. Dr. Okoye's treatment had worked even better than predicted, and the Kori were rebuilding with the enthusiasm of a species given a second chance at life. Matriarch Sela stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city, watching the traffic flow through streets that had been empty just a few years ago. Beside her stood Anne Brooks, older now but still carrying herself with that quiet confidence that humans seem to possess. We are naming a city after your grandmother, Sela said, and a university after Dr. Okoye, and a star system after Admiral Stone. We want to remember. We would be honored, Anne replied. But you do not owe us anything more. This is not about owing, Sela said gently. This is about gratitude, about friendship, about never forgetting that when we needed help, humanity came running. On the streets below, Kuri and humans walked together, working on reconstruction projects and scientific research. The two species had formed a bond that surprised both of them. Humans found the Kuri to be thoughtful and creative. Kuri found humans to be energetic and innovative. Together they were accomplishing things neither could manage alone. The Council has been sending envoys, Anne mentioned. They want to discuss formal treaties. Will you agree? Sela asked. Anne smiled slightly. Maybe, on our terms. We will not join the Council, but we are willing to establish diplomatic relations, trade agreements, defense pacts with species who share our values. The Vosh situation still troubles them, Sela observed. The Vosh Concordat had been placed under sanctions by the Galactic Council once the evidence of genocide became undeniable. Their military was still crippled, their leadership had been replaced, and they were paying reparations to the Kuri. It was not perfect justice, but it was something. The Vosh needed to learn a lesson, Anne said firmly. You cannot just kill people because it is convenient. Actions have consequences. Some species think humanity is too violent, Sela said. Some species think mercy is the same as weakness, Anne countered. We showed them it is not. We could have destroyed the Vosh completely. We chose not to. We gave them a chance to change, to be better. That is not violence. That is justice with compassion. A young Kuri approached them. One of the children born after the cure was distributed. She held a data tablet and looked nervous but determined. Ambassador Brooks? She asked in careful English. I am writing a report for school about the Endless Dawn. The human ship, I mean. Could you tell me why you named your flagship after our colony vessel? Anne knelt down to the child's level, her expression softening. Because we wanted everyone to remember what your people did for us. The original Endless Dawn carried 50,000 Curie who sacrificed everything to save Earth. Our ship carries that name to honor them, and to remind us why we are here. My teacher says humans always remember their debts, the child said. Your teacher is right, Anne confirmed. We do, but more than that, we remember our friends. And the Curie will always be our friends. The child smiled and ran off to finish her report. Sayla's colors shifted to warm gold. You are good with younglings, she observed. I have 3 nieces back home, Anne said, standing. They ask me questions all the time. It is good practice. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the city live and grow. Then Sayla spoke again. Other species are starting to approach us, not the council but individual worlds. They ask if humanity might help them too. We are aware, Anne said. A mining colony having trouble with pirates. A research station that needs medical assistance. A diplomatic dispute that threatens to become a war. They all want the humans to step in. Will you? Sayla asked. Anne considered the question carefully. We will help when we can. When it is right. When the cause is just. But we will not become the galaxy's police force. We are not here to rule anyone or solve everyone's problems. We are here to be good neighbors and stand up against real injustice. The galaxy is not used to that, Sayla said. They are used to either conquerors or indifferent observers. You are neither. We are friends, Anne said simply. We help our friends. And we make friends easily. That is the human way. Later that evening, Anne recorded her regular report to Earth. She sat in her quarters aboard the diplomatic station, surrounded by gifts from various species who had reached out to humanity over the years. Books, artwork, technological marvels. Each one represented a potential friendship, a possible alliance. This is Ambassador Anne Brooks' 5th-year report from Curie Space, she began. The Curie population is now at 1.3 billion and growing steadily. All traces of the fading have been eliminated from their genetic code. They are thriving. She paused, gathering her thoughts. Our relationship with the Galactic Council remains complicated. They fear us, respect us, and need us, often all at the same time. We have established formal diplomatic relations with 17 species outside of Council oversight. Trade is flourishing. Cultural exchanges are ongoing. And most importantly, we have prevented 3 conflicts from escalating into war simply by offering to mediate. Anne leaned back in her chair. The galaxy is learning that humanity will not be ignored or controlled. But they are also learning that we are not their enemies. We seek partnership, not domination. We offer help, not conquest. And we absolutely will not tolerate genocide, slavery, or other crimes against sapient beings. She smiled slightly. Some call us the Death World Protectors now. They mean it as a warning, but I think it is accurate. We came from a harsh world, and we learned to protect what is ours. Now the galaxy is ours too, in a way. Not to own, but to care for, to defend, to make better. Anne finished her report and sent it on its way to Earth. Then she walked to the observation window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, in thousands of systems, species were living their lives. Some in peace, some in conflict, some thriving, some struggling. And now, for the first time in 300 years, humanity was part of that great galactic community, not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals, as friends, as people who remembered their debts and kept their promises. A chime sounded. Reth was requesting a meeting. Anne smiled and accepted. The old Curie had become one of her closest friends over the years, a bridge between human and galactic thinking. He entered her quarters, his colors showing pleasure at seeing her. Good evening, Anne. I hope I'm not disturbing you. Never, Anne assured him. What brings you by? Reth settled into a seat designed for his 4-armed body. I wanted to thank you, not just for saving my people, though that debt can never be repaid, but for showing the galaxy something it had forgotten. What is that? Anne asked. That honor matters, Reth said quietly. That keeping your word matters. That standing up for what is right even when it is difficult or dangerous, that matters too. The galaxy had become cynical, focused only on profit and power. You reminded us that there are things worth fighting for beyond self-interest. Anne sat down across from him. We learned that from you, from the 50,000 who died to save us. They showed us what true sacrifice looks like, what real heroism means. We are just trying to live up to their example. And you have, Reth assured her, more than you know. Do you know what young Curie say now when they face something difficult? Anne shook her head. They say, what would a human do? Reth smiled. They mean it as inspiration. Humans do not give up. Humans find a way. Humans protect their friends no matter the cost. You have become our example of what courage looks like. That is a heavy responsibility, Anne said softly. Yes, Reth agreed. But if anyone can bear it, humans can. You were forged in fire on a death world. You survived and thrived despite every challenge. Now you use that strength to help others. There is no greater calling. They talked for hours, discussing plans and dreams and possibilities. The Kuri wanted to establish a joint research program with humanity. Several other species were interested in defense treaties. And there were rumors of a species in the Outer Rim facing extinction from a natural disaster, hoping humanity might help. When Reth finally left, Anne stood at the window again, looking out at the vast universe. 5 years ago, she had come to Kuon expecting to study a dying species and maybe ease their final days. Instead, she had helped save them. Instead, humanity had announced its return to the galaxy in a way nobody could ignore. The debt was repaid. The Kuri would live. And humanity had shown the galaxy that Deathworlders were not just dangerous. They were also loyal, honorable, and willing to fight for what was right. Some species feared that. Some admired it. But everyone understood it now. Anne touched the glass, feeling the cold surface beneath her fingers. Out there, across countless stars, other species were watching humanity, wondering what these strange apes from Earth would do next, wondering if humanity might help them too. And the answer, Anne knew, would always be the same. If you need us, we will come. If you are our friend, we will protect you. If you threaten innocent lives, we will stop you. This is who we are. This is who we will always be. The galaxy had trembled in fear when humanity repaid its debt. But now slowly that fear was transforming into something else. Hope, perhaps. Trust, maybe. The understanding that somewhere in the darkness there was a species that would stand against injustice, that would keep their promises, that would never forget their friends. 300 years of isolation had ended. The age of humanity had begun. And the galaxy, for better or worse, would have to adapt. But Anne suspected it would be for the better. Humanity had learned from the Kuri sacrifice. They had become worthy of that gift. And now they would spend the rest of their existence making sure no other species faced extinction alone. The debt was repaid. But the work, the real work of building a better galaxy, had only just begun, and humanity was ready.